People of Bangladesh have lived under emergency rule for the last 2 years, run by leaders backed by the military. After conducting a campaign against corruption, the interim government now says the country is ready to return to democracy. But the two main parties contesting in the upcoming elections share a deep and historic rivalry, one that has erupted into violence in the past. I'm Fawzia Ibrahim. On this edition of 101 East, we ask, what is the future for Bangladeshi politics? Bangladesh has struggled with poverty since it gained independence in 1971. Critics blame the country's corrupt, bitter and violent politics for the nation's lack of progress. Howell Davis reports on the two political dynasties that have dominated this country for nearly 4 decades.
The Bangladeshi countryside outside Dhaka, a fertile rice-growing region, this is home to Mansoor Ali, his wife and their 2 children. Crucial elections returning the country to civilian rule are due in late December, but here at least there are more important concerns.
We are farmers. We always keep ourselves busy in the fields so that we don't think about politics. We don't get into it. It's unnecessary for us to talk about it.
The 2 politicians who've dominated the country for almost 20 years also have difficulty talking. Former Prime Ministers Sheikh Hasina and Khaleda Zia worked together to overthrow the military regime in 1991, but they've barely spoken to each other since. This is a rare meeting between the two a few weeks ago. Critics say their rivalry has done much to poison Bangladeshi politics.
The main characteristic of the politics in Bangladesh is confrontational, that is it. And if you notice that the 2 major parties or the 2 major alliances, they have historical reasons to be against each other because one is a direct beneficiary of the other's fall.
The bitter personal animosity between the 2 women dates back decades. Hasina's father, Sheikh Mujib Rahman, played a key part in Bangladesh's fight for independence. He later became the country's first prime minister in 1972 before his assassination 3 years later. Khaleda's husband, Ziaur Rahman, himself became president in the late 70s before his murder. The 2 women have since argued over which man played the most important role in gaining independence for the country. The result of their personal enmity has been a political culture where violence, mass protests and wildcat strikes have become all too common. It's also a culture where the 2 women dominate their political parties almost completely.
The winner takes all, that was the basic principle, and unfortunately it also led to a kind of personality cult, culture of personality cult in Bangladesh, and the person, the party and the people linked to that particular party could do whatever they felt like without having to fear that they will have to answer for their own deeds.
Khaleda Zia's BNP party returned to power in 2001. Critics claim that under her leadership, corruption, already a problem, became even more common.
During the last regime, 2001 onwards, grand corruption, as we understand, corruption at the highest level, involving millions and millions of dollars worth of either government property or procurement or deals were made.
2 years ago, at the end of her time in office, a military-backed government took power, exasperated by the violence and graft. Its anti-corruption campaign saw thousands of people arrested, including the 2 party leaders. But it reckoned without their continuing popularity and was forced to let them go. The interim government had hoped for a complete break with the old politics. But with both women once again contesting the elections as party leaders, that hasn't happened.
There was perhaps an expectation in early 2007 that new political actors would emerge. But the reality is civil society fueled that expectation but did not produce the new political actors.
As on the streets of Bangladesh, so in politics, there sometimes seems to be little movement. But some argue that there has been real change, with a reformed electoral roll and a beefed-up anti-corruption commission. And more importantly, they say, people's views of what they want from their politicians have changed.
The electorate is far more conscious, and that's where I think Bangladesh's strength lies, that you have the same people, you have the same sort of political parties, but they are operating under new imperatives of popular expectation, and they cannot ignore these imperatives. They cannot.
That may be true, but whoever takes the helm in December faces a stiff battle, not just to convince people that politics need not be violent and corrupt, but to actually get on with the business of governing the country and to improve the lives of ordinary Bangladeshis like Mansoor Ali's wife, Rahima.
It's very hard to live. It's a struggle. It's very hard to maintain our family. Our living conditions don't get better. Things don't get better financially for our family. We just somehow manage to live.
For more on the upcoming elections here in Bangladesh, we are joined by Professor Imtiaz Ahmed of Dhaka University. Also, MK Anwar, Vice President of the Bangladesh National Party, and Tofail Ahmed, Senior Member of the Awami League Party. Thank you very much for joining us here. Imtiaz, if I can start with you. We've had 2 years of a caretaker government. We have had a major anti-corruption drive. Has the interim government done enough to ensure that this will be a free and fair election?
Well, on the whole, one can be a bit positive. There has been certain setbacks. Expectations were much higher. But to expect that everything would change in 2 years, that I think also was wishful thinking. So if you take, on the whole, I would say it has succeeded in some measures. One is that it came out with a ID card, which was a demand of all the political parties, so to say, even the civil society. Also, the voter list, in fact, got trimmed down to a point which is now acceptable to all, because that was also controversial. But to expect that everything is rosy, I would still hesitate to say that would probably take some more time.
Well, I'll just take you up on that point. The two leaders of the two major parties that are contesting face corruption charges, extortion charges, amongst other things. If either party wins, if either leader wins, won't that in any way taint their leadership as Prime Minister?
I have my doubt this time. I think what will happen, there will be pressure, no doubt about it, because both the parties, the leadership, most of them are on bail. So even if there is what you call a possibility that the ruling party would try to minimize the impact of those, definitely the opposition would make an issue out of that, and it would go vice versa. So on the whole, there will be balance. And moreover, I think all the politicians and also the leaders, in fact, they want that judicially there should be given a free trial, and it should be, in fact, if there is no evidence, then it should just be taken as null and void. So there's no point why shade would be blemished. So the issue here, I think it gives the opportunity for the leaders to come out free from these corruption charges.
I'm yet to see even a semblance of success, what's called anti-corruption drive. And they had support of the people, majority of the people at least, when they took up this agenda. But it turned out to be a rather drive for victimizing innocent people and depoliticizing the people.
You yourself were charged for corruption and spent some time in jail as well. Do you feel that you were victimized, you were targeted?
It was just absolutely false case. Let me finish that first part of my statement, that they have destroyed the economy completely. By any stretch of imagination, it will be very difficult to take back the economy to the position which was in 2006. The crime has increased. The poverty particularly situation has deteriorated. According to a report of the World Bank, that at least 50% of the people have gone down below the poverty level, whereas in 2006 it was about 34%.
Anwar, I'm so sorry to stop you there, but I need to move on now to Tofel and talk about the Awami League's chances in this election. Now, the last time you were in power, Transparency International said that Bangladesh is the most corrupt nation in the world. Are we about to see a return to that level of corruption if you get into power?
You see, it is not during the time of the Awami League, it was during the time of the next government also that there was corruption. There are corruptions in most of the countries of the world.
But there has been a major anti-corruption crackdown, though,
yes,
in the last 2 years. Many
yes,
of your party members have also been targeted. Are we about to see a return to that level of corruption?
You see, this is our commitment, firm commitment to the nation, that if Awami League can take the responsibility of the government, this process will continue. We also want to see the reduction of corruption in this country. I cannot say that it will be totally eradicated, but definitely if we try, and as there is a national consensus on this issue, I am sure we will continue for the process of reduction of the anti-corruption drive.
On that note, we will take a break, gentlemen. We'll have more on the Bangladeshi elections right after the break. Stay with us.